Wow, Dovi Spira, you have tremendously shrunk, and you need a haircut also. Huh? Let's get to work. Where's the greenhouse? He hasn't shown the guys. Where's the greenhouse? He went to Lakewood? He moved to Lakewood. Oh, because there's no chutzpah there or something, no? No, none at all. Where is it? Cherry Hill? What's there in Cherry Hill? Okay, Rabbi Isai. Ready to roll? Are greenhouse ready to roll or no? You've ever been there before or not really? You remember how to learn or no? Remember how to learn or no? No. All right. All right. Oh, I didn't start the video. 1 second. Okay, everybody say. All ready to roll? You guys hear me, right? Okay. Everybody say, just one nakuda from Ma'aseh Shabbos, which I so wisely didn't want to mention yesterday because I know my Yitzaharas and I know. Actually maybe two nakudas. One is that Nussi is a little bit disturbed. He said I left off that Eretz Yisrael, the electricity is quite a problem, and I left off Kilu without any suggestions. And Maisa, that's not true. I left a suggestion that you can get onto a generator. And as a matter of fact, it's Mamish Amari Kiddush Hashem, this Shabbos in Romema, whoever knows or doesn't know, but in Romema, this Shabbos in Romema, the generator blew for the Mamish, hundreds, maybe even thousands of families were affected because Baruch Hashem, so many people joined the generator. On Friday, I suppose, so many people joined the generator, and it's Mamish was a big Kiddush Hashem, and when it blew in the middle of Shabbos, when right at the height of the heat, it was Mamish. But what time? 2 p.m. When people woke up, they thought they were inside the mikveh, the hot one. You know, it's Mamish. Mamish a big Kiddush Hashem. So Nussi, so what are you talking about? It was Mamish a big Kiddush Hashem. That's first of all. Second of all, I did leave with some eitzes. We left with some eitzes. For example, the fridge. That's considered just preserving the food. Maybe it's not a Tosefes Hanoya. And we left off with maybe if you buy a light, you buy a I think they're called a Luxus. I think they're called that. Or you buy some battery operated light, and that's whatever you could do. Somebody asked me, does it make a difference? What? Yeah. He says even if I'm going to use air conditioning, okay. So it's certainly it certainly is something. Certainly something. Well, candles is a problem because then you won't be able to do the things like reading because nobody's going to be reading by the candle. You have to. Okay. But if you're just eating, then it's not nishkeferlich. Maybe if you'll be machmer not to learn Torah the whole entire Shabbos or something like that. Or, some people are machmer on Tuesday so that they won't learn on Shabbos also. Right? Okay. I don't know if you have to do that. Okay. That's another eitzah we gave. Any other eitzahs we gave? Anything else? What? It doesn't help lifnei iver. It doesn't help lifnei iver. Maybe yesh ladin on the lifnei iver shaila over here. Pashtus, it is a lifnei iver. Pashtus, it is a lifnei iver. Maybe you could say that klapei the lifnei iver shaila. There definitely are svaras that are floating around that we had a very hard time with, that it's considered that they're doing it. The basic idea is that if you now have turned, this is good? Yeah? Hello? Wasn't that? Okay. It went off? Oh, good, thank you. Oh, not good. No, very good. Oh, God bless. Now, I'm not taking back the bracha, but okay. If you Lamaisa turned on all your lights and electricity and all the things that you want on, and we said that's Ka'in at Sivoy telling him to shovel more coals and to shovel more coals. Now, Lamaisa, if he's not going to shovel more coals, So we're running the risk that there's a chayla sheyesh b'sakana who's not going to get the help that he needs. And I'll give you an example. What would happen if one of these fellows from the Chevra Chashmal, he decides to do tshuva that minute, and there's a Rav inside the Chevra Chashmal, and he asks him, should I keep on shoveling? Should I keep on shoveling? And so what's the Rav going to answer? The Rav's going to say, I have any way of knowing right now if in that building that we're shoveling for there's a chayla or not a chayla, right? I have no way of knowing. I have no way of knowing. Should you set up a system like this? Probably not. But what's going to happen if he's going to ask that Rav? And he's going to say to the Rav, you tell me the word, I stop shoveling. You tell me the word, I stop shoveling. Now, did you have a right to turn on the lights and turn on the electricity and cause this person to have to be in this situation of where he's shoveling? And it doesn't sound to me very good. Rosh Hashanah Zalman in the Tshuva writes, it is mechayer. How do you say mechayer in English? It's despicable. Nasty means good by those kind of people. Right? It's despicable. It's despicable. But could you say that it's a lifnei iver? That's the question. It's not so clear. It's despicable. The mashalim that I gave the other day are correct, right? It's like the person who's, so now this person over here, it's true, he doesn't have those intentions. He's not thinking about chaylim. He doesn't care about anything. As a matter of fact, I looked into it. It seems like you get 3 times your wages if you work on Shabbos, because people don't want to work on Saturday. They want to have a day off. So if you work on Saturday, not Shabbos Kodesh, but if you work on Saturday, you get 3 times your wages. I don't think he's thinking so much about sick people in Chaylim. I don't think he cares that much about them. I think he's thinking about money. But on the other hand, if this person comes in and taps me on the shoulder, Rabbi Kallus, you tell me not to shovel, I don't shovel. Is there a Rav that's going to tell him not to shovel? Is there a Rav that's going to tell him not to shovel? L'chayr not. L'chayr, everyone's going to tell me not to shovel because who knows? Who knows? That's not clear to me, Grada. It's not such a pashut, but it's not for our sugis. Being that that's the case, it could be that takes away a bit of the shmek of the lifnei iver. You can't say that I'm putting in front. Now, in other words, you shouldn't have done what you did. You shouldn't have done it. You put him into the situation that he's in right now. But now that he's in the situation, you know what it's like? It's like a person that goes to the hospital. Somebody called me this Erev Shabbos. He wants to know, can he go visit his wife in the hospital? He said when he's going to go to the hospital, I think he said Hadassah Hospital has a Israeli standing there taking the temperature of everybody that comes in. Okay, so is he allowed to visit? Are they allowed to do that? They're allowed to do that. Why? Because Maisa, they have to make sure nobody with temperature comes in. So, Rabbi, why do you have to visit your wife? I hear it's just because it's a very nice thing, etc. But Maisa, you're causing him to have to take your temperature. And let's say you know for sure you don't have temperature. Let's say you took your temperature before, you're not endangering anything, whatever the point is. But they're going to take, this is just going to be a bump. They're going to take his temperature at the door. Do they have to take the temperature? Yes. If they ask Rabbi Kallus now, should we take it? I'm not going to say halavai, they would get a guy, halavai, okay. But they're not asking me that. They're saying, right now, we don't have a guy. Are we allowed to take his temperature when he walks into the hospital? What am I going to tell them? I'm going to tell them you have to take the temperature because you can't endanger an entire hospital. So the situation that was set now, is he therefore over on lifnei iver by coming to the hospital? Or not, because he's not doing anything wrong. Okay. Now, it's a little bit of a stretch, the mashal that I'm giving, but maybe that's a svara to explain over here why they possibly wouldn't be over here lifnei iver. Because since in the end of the day, you turned on all these lights, you turned on the electricity, you turned on these, you did a despicable act, right? And it's quite despicable, okay? And I wouldn't want to make a shidduch with you for the despicability of what you did. But Lemaisa, now this person's coming to me and saying, Rabbi Kallus, can I go and shovel more coals? Because who knows what's going on in those buildings, if there's chaylim, if there's not chaylim, and whatever. So then probably Rabbi Kallus is going to say, I don't know. Stama, you have to shovel more coals. Stama. So to say, just so 1 minute. So Mamela, I don't know if that's called lifnei iver. I don't know if that's it. Just give me one. I'll try to answer that. But I don't know if that's called lifnei iver. If that's not called lifnei iver, so then what are we left with? We're left with the shilos of Ma'aseh Shabbos. No, Ma'aseh Shabbos, we spoke already, Tinuk Shenishpa and whatever, and all these things. So it could be that that's the niggin that I was coming Bafuki on Thursday, the niggin that you just heard now. And that's the idea of why the Ma'aseh people use electricity in Eretz Yisrael. Is what I'm saying. Galat, Ramosha Feinstein in the Tshuva says Mefurish that he brings Rosh Hashanah Zalman, the Sfar I just said, and he says he doesn't like it, he doesn't understand it. So Ramosha didn't understand it, and Ramosha said, so therefore it must be because the Goyim are doing it and they're just doing tikkunim, which we know that's not the facts. So if you would ask Ramosha Feinstein today, can I use electricity on Shabbos? It sounds like Rav Moshe would say no. And we know that all the Gedolim talk are against it. Rav Shlomo Zalman himself said it's quite a despicable act. Rav Shlomo Zalman himself, interesting, Rav Shlomo Zalman Taka didn't use electricity on Shabbos, except they say like one thing, like the fridge or something. So somebody asked him, why does he hold to that svar of the fridge of just preserving the food? So Shlomo Zalman said no, because Me'ikra din, he holds his mutter. That was the nusach they say from Shlomo Zalman. I heard this from Rav Darzi. So he said, Shlomo Zalman said, Me'ikra din, I hold his mutter. I have to make a machal to show that this whole entire system is wrong. The whole system is wrong, and it's hard for me to understand that this nusach, because Saif when he's doing that light, he's doing a part of the despicable act that he just spoke about. So I don't know what's true and what's not true. Maybe he did hold it this far that I just said because it's just preserving the food. I don't know. I must tell you, I'm not 100%. But I'll go upon it. If somebody asks me, is it the right thing to get on the generator? I think so. Could you ask? You want to know? If he tells me I'm not getting generators, okay? Is there any point in doing all those other things? I think so. There's still a point in doing the other thing, getting food. And then in the air conditioning, so in this heat, he says to himself, look, it's mamish pekuch nefesh, even though it's not, but you can't say that it's, I'm so despicable if anyways, as far as I'm not saying what I would do. I'm just telling you that that's okay, is that crystal clear? Did I help a little bit? Yeah? What do you want to ask, Rabbi Lieberman? I don't know if that's so accurate. Maybe in the hospital. I don't know about that. There's stories. Again, I'm not into these stories because you never know what's real, what's not. So somebody told me, somebody sent me a message. He said, that there was a blackout in Chleis Harnof. So he said, happened, not happened, I don't know. He said there was a blackout in Harnof a couple of years ago, and there was somebody on a ventilator and he died. Right? I mean, they didn't say that he died falling down the stairs. I don't know exactly what happened over there. I don't know. I'm not taking responsibility for these stories or whatever. But you see, now I'm like that. So what am I supposed to do? But now when he's shoveling the coals, said I can't know that when he's shoveling it, if they're going to run out, it's affecting people, and it's a klali stick and need. We agree in Ramat Shlomo for that klali stick and need, right? Because if certainly my block. Someone comes to me on my block and he asks me the question, I'm going to tell him it's mutter. Because if in my block is which borders the Nachshemam, so if they would see, a blackout on my block, which is there, they say, "Oh, look, yummy, let's eat them." Right? That's what'll happen over there because they'll see that the whole place is a blackout. So in general, there is a mila in having light there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, these are shver svaras. I'm not coming to tell you what's pashit. It's definitely not pashit. It's definitely not pashit. Come again? Come again? They're not offering us that. They tell us that that's what we're doing. Otherwise, the system, that's how they created the system. That is their system now. They have to change their system. I'm asking. And we have to change what we're doing, right? But it's very hard to pinpoint where the Lifnei Iver is. Okay, everybody say, think about it. Is it more noite le'eser than leheter? Yes. Right? Is there a makim for that kula? Maybe. We'll say it like that. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that Motzei Shabbos. I just after experiencing the heat on Shabbos, and I said to my wife, we got to know what's going to be this week because the whole air conditioning. I needed to know what's going on. Baruch Hashem, now it's mamish. It's so cold in here that no, it's mamish. It's freezing. No, it's mamish freezing. But I was nervous that there wasn't going to be air conditioning. So I told my wife, do me a favor, call up and find out the weather. Find the weather. So she called up the weather, and then I hear that she puts it on the speaker, and then they tell you that this weather was taken. I don't know whatever. It was taken at 2:00 on Shabbos afternoon. I said, hang up the phone. Right? Hang up the phone. Right? Hang up the phone. So then I said, how could you take a hanoya? How can you take a no? From they made that weather there, that person who was sitting there with potions and everything and all types of things. What? It says they must tell me they must do something. It doesn't sound like it. What? I'm sure they're pressing buttons and protons and croutons and all types of stuff. I don't think that it just happens on its own. I don't think so. Otherwise, what do you need a weatherman for? John Mantone, 10-10 wins. Who needs it? You telling me he does nothing? Abby, what are you telling me? He does nothing. Not Makabel, he does nothing. John Mantone, 10-10 wins. I'm not Makabel, he does nothing. So, no, I think they do something, no? I think they do something. Anyways, right? Fine, they had some zach. Wait, Rabbi said they had some zach that he spoke into the phone at 2:00. Who's causing trouble here? They had some zach that who just said that? They had some zach that he talked into who am I yelling at? I don't remember who I'm yelling at. Right? They had some zach that he talked into the phone at 2:00 in the afternoon. What? It was automated? Okay, I give up. Anyways, assuming it wouldn't be automated and assuming there was some malacha, I can't believe there's not a malacha done. I don't buy it. But anyways, assuming there's a malacha done, I want to tell you a svara that I was thinking. Rabbi say, I want to tell you a svara that I was thinking. Rabbi say, let me tell you a svara I was thinking. Vinishvi, it's a beautiful svara. It's not from me, obviously, nothing beautiful because it comes from the Ksav Sofer. I'll tell you a beautiful svara. I was thinking it's mutter to listen to the automated message or the message or whatever, even if it was done on Shabbos. What's the reason we're coming to answer that message from the Ksav Sofer? Mitzad the Mishnah Berurah, it's mutter to listen to that message, could be what we saw, right? Because it's for a chayrim. It's a chayrim, it's Ma'aseh Shabbos, call them Mazid, call them Zionists, call them whatever you want. The Ma'aseh, it's Mazid, a chayrim, Ma'aseh Shabbos, mutter. Elamide, Rabbeinu HaGadol, the Ksav Sofer, which I told you, Echad Moira to go against the Ksav Sofer. And the Maisa, Derech Agav, I made a mistake. The story that I told you about the going under the talus of the Chasam Sofer was the Reb Shimon Sofer. It wasn't the Ksav Sofer. Now it's not Muchach, it could be the Ksav Sofer. Also went under the talus of the Chasam Sofer, but Akapanim was Reb Shimon Sofer, who was the Rav of Kruka, and that was under a Maisa. Okay. Akapanim, the Krakow. That's number two. Number three is that the Ksav Sofer told us that I'm going to ask her if it's done b'kviyas. Now, if you look in the Ksav Sofer, he says two svaras there. The first svar is very difficult to understand. And that was the svar I was fighting with. And that's svar probably the other Gedolim are against, I imagine. He says that's, if they're cooking big fiyas, so then who said that's called a chayrim, because the whole knas is legabe the chayrim, so they would have made a knas, which is difficult. Because pashtus in the sugya, we only answered la'atzmai and not lachem. But then he says a svara, which is such an ice in the svara, you can't ding on the svara. Ice in the svara. It's almost scary. It's such a good svara. He says, you know what? How could you buy this food from this restaurant of these people that were cooking on Shabbos? How could you do it? Hooray, you're right. A chayrim is mutter. Very nice. And la'atzmai is aser. So now, the la'atzmai aser is what? He's assuming, like that side we spoke about, la'atzmai aser means that they can't get benefit from that which they did. So they can't sell. So now if you buy it from them, you're enabling them the la'atzmai. How are you going to buy from them how are you going to buy from these shkotzim the meat that they just cooked? How are you going to buy from them? They cooked meat. That's la'atzmai. They can't get hanoya. What's the hanoya of la'atzmai? They can't sell it. That's what they want to do. So then that's for sure. Mazid is also la'atzmai. So now you can't buy the meat, Mr. Acherim, als what? Als lifnei iver. Als lifnei iver. Because you're going to go and enable his la'atzmai. So you're not allowed als lifnei iver. That's now it could be that's far. Okay, it's mashma. Mishnah Berurah doesn't hold to that because Mishnah Berurah says you're allowed to sell the item. We spoke about this, but at least it's a little bit more miskabel al aleiv, the whole Ksav Sofer, and that's maybe what the Gedolim were chayshish for. Does that far apply by 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday? They did whatever they're going to do. Days Rishayim did whatever they're going to do. They took the weather. They did whatever they're going to do. Then they press buttons and computers and this, that, and they put it into the system. It's done. Me not listening now. Is that going to, me listening, does that enable them anything? Is there a lifnei iver over here? There's no lifnei iver. There's a moment, there's no lifnei iver. Somebody's listening. That for sure is not the issue over here. And you know what? I don't even know if you're right. They're putting up the weather for the option of people to be able to listen. It doesn't work like that a lot of times. In when you're dealing with major systems and they're not cheshboning now who's listening and whatever, right? They're doing what they're doing now for that option. As I was thinking, it's a beautiful svara. I could listen to the weather. What do you think? Nice svara, no? What do you think? Nobel Peace Prize? No? What do you think, Rabbi Jason? Not bad, no? That's number two. Number three. No, it's good. Danny Katzman. He wants me to read his message. He says, what do you mean? The only people that listen to the weather are people that don't have internet Haredi people, Haredim that don't have internet. It's true, but it's the same weather. It doesn't matter. It's the same weather. It's the same way if you're going to be allowed to go on internet and listen to the weather. It's the exact same question, right? And also, there's a lot of like these old people. You know those old people that they, then they're hunting for like buttons on the computer. That's clever, right? They're still there and they're still fry and they're still, don't worry about them. There's still enough of them out there. What's going to be in a few years? I don't know. But I'll go on them. There's enough of them out. But it's a nice fire. Rabbi Spitz, you don't like this fire? It's a nice fire. Why are you causing trouble? What? No. The point is that once they did it, I'm not being over on lifting either now. It could be out to Macha and Chil Hashem and all types of. It's done though. It's done. There's a whole different mystius over there. I'm trying to figure out if Yidik Sav Sofer, am I enabling him? You guys are talking. You're right. Don't listen to the weather. It's Chil Hashem. And I told my wife we're not listening to the weather. It's certainly before Hesianisht, right? But because it's a Chil Hashem to listen to weather that the Tzionim made and whatever. Okay, Pum Faker, Mistama God is gonna Dafka not listen to the Tzionim now because they did it on Shabbos. Sorry. The ball game. No, the ball game was. Oh, you mean that we'll never be able to get it? First of all, I don't even know the Metzias. It could be they have enough, machinery in Zachen that they could probably go back in time too. I don't know. No, they could do it right now. They could just do it right now. Yeah, they could do this. Yeah, it's probably even more accurate because it's close. Now, but one last thing. Yes. The problem is that the Mishnah Berurah sounds like yes. He sounds like he's arguing even if you intended to sell it because he says it without any exceptions. And this is a big fight, and the Stipler learns like that. And the Likutim, we spoke about that. It's very hard to understand that. The Ksav Sofer does make a lot of sense to not be saying that, but okay, maybe there's a Makkah Mekel. Even Google, actually they get information. Google and Israel, information from Mars, they get a little thing from that. Saying no matter what, you need my svar. Yeah, I think so also. Now, one last thing, Rabbi said, I spoke last month, which is, I don't want to go into it again. There was one Ma'aseh Shabbos case, which I spoke about. Whoever was here remembers, whoever wasn't here, anyways, it's probably in the process of making up the shiurim from last month. So you'll see it anyways. We spoke about a case of where somebody pours water into the cholent, that the cholent was being nifter and was burning out. And we said over as far from Shlomo Zalman, right? Rabbi Schutz, you remember this far, right? From last month, that the water was going to the cholent. So he donned, is that called the Ma'aseh Shabbos? Because what you're doing is you're cooking the water when you're doing it so it shouldn't burn out. So what you're doing is you're saving the cholent. So maybe it's not a positive anoy, not a positive. But others said, what are you talking about? The water gets cooked, and now the water has blias of a Ma'aseh Shabbos, and she's an Isser, and she goes all over the cholent. That was the needed. Shlomo Zalman said a svara. I'll say bekitzer. Let me sure whoever remembers good, whoever doesn't is even better. Shlomo Zalman said a svara. Who remembers the svara? Shlomo Zalman. Oh, it doesn't. Shlomo Zalman said that the water, at the point when the water gets into the cholent, does she get usher that second? No, it takes a few seconds to cook, right? The second she gets into the water, she's not usher, right? It takes a few seconds to cook. Okay, by the time it cooks, the water's already in its battle in the cholent. The water's already battle. Elamai, there's a concept of davashesh matir, that we don't say bittul. So that's not true. When it comes to something that was nisariv, beheter, here, the first second the water is in, there's no bishul. It got nisariv immediately. And then a second later, kivyachol, when it got cooked, once it started getting cooked, so then at that point it was already mixed. If that's the case, then it was, the taroivis was already beheter. Taroivis was already beheter. And therefore, if a taroivis is beheter, we don't say davashesh matir. It's a complicated cheshbon. I made it last month. Whoever remembers, good. Whoever doesn't remember, it's also okay. But what I want to tell you was an interesting story that someone told me yesterday. He told me that somebody got very nervous that the urn was burning out. And they got all nervous, they got all from lunch, and the urn was burning out, and they got scared that it's going to make a fire and whatever. Now, if they were be'emes scared of a fire, they should have just got a guy to pull out the plug. Or if they were mamish petrified, they started hearing all types of dreadful noises, they probably should have taken it out with a shinoi or something. Okay, what did they do? They took water and put it straight inside the urn. Okay? What? Shtickle bahala, mistama bahala. And mistama it's bahala, it's probably a shtickle like bahala we said is a shtickle mazik, a little bit. Okay, whatever. Fine. What's the question? The shaila is, the person told me, so they had this shaila. He was in a kollel and they donned the shaila. He wanted to know that now do we aser the urn? Do we aser the urn? The urn got the water was cooked be'eser, right? That water became bishul tikka water. And now that water went into the kedera. So whatever, you have to do kashering or whatever, you have to kasher the urn or something like that. So I wanted to don a svara to be makel. I wanted to don a svara, two svaras. One is I want to say, what iser was she over on by putting the water in? What was she over on? Yeah, she was over on bishul. She's not trying to cook the water. And not only that, he told me that the case was that she didn't put in tons of water. She just put in the water, just, that it shouldn't burn. So she's not even going to use that water because anybody who knows from the urns, that last drops of water, you don't even wind up really using. So it's definitely an ein tzarich legufa. She's not trying to cook that water, right? So it's ein tzarich legufa. Ein tzarich legufa is drabanan. Okay, drabanan b'mezid is not a good thing, right? But Bahala wasn't so simple. I'm just saying, we just knocked down the shaila from deraisa to drabanan. Okay, it's not great. It didn't help us that much. But then I was thinking, now you have this other svara. Is that why? Is that what we're doing is we're just trying to not break the urn, right? But that doesn't help us because the water, the bliya of the evil waters, the evil water bliyas go into the what? Motzei Shabbos is mutter for who? For everybody else. Elamai, but Motzei Shabbos, since we knocked it down to D'Rabbanan, so l'chayra, it's mutter for everybody on Motzei Shabbos. Because Mezid D'Rabbanan, we said, was only aser for the duration of Shabbos. And Motzei Shabbos, that urn would be mutter. That was the addition that I had, is that I turned it into a D'Rabbanan. I think that's Adkan, Motzei Shabbos, and I guess now we'll start kosher. No, we started kosher already. Let me even make this into a different shiur. Okay, new shiur. Okay, we're back. Okay, kosher. Okay, let's make a sikkum of what we saw yesterday. We got a lot going on over here. We got Avnei Nezers. Avnei Nezer is a big heavyweight over here. When you get a chance, make sure you see Simon Kopei, Pei Aleph, Pei Beis, Pei Gimel in the Avnei Nezer. All right. There are three types of kesher. Kesher, ksharim. There are three types of kesher. Make a quick sikkum what we saw yesterday. No, what do you think? It's good to make a sikkum this time. There are three types of ksharim. Gemara tells us there's the kesher which is deraisa, kesher which is derabanan, and the kesher which is mutter. Rashi Shita, who remembers Rashi Shita is everything is totally in zman. Very good. If it's lailam, deraisa. If it's an official amount of time, but not lailam, what that time is, and that's Hashem will see, that's derabanan. And if it's under a certain amount of time, it's either going to be 7 days or 24 hours. That's a very, very, temporary type of knot, and she's going to be mutter gomer. Crystal clear? Clear, that's number one. Rambam Shita, Nishtazeh. That was the Shita of the Ramah, the Helik Ramah. Rambam Shita is Nishtazeh. The Rambam says, what's Italian? It's Italian umnis, mittel oilam, ganzen mais. And the Rambam holds that in order for it to be a knot, it has to be a very chashiv knot. We'll have to describe what type of knot that is. Maybe tight, maybe, we spoke about the Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts. Right? That's the rice. Drabanan, either or. Either an uman's knot, which is a very temporary knot, or a lo'olam dikanat, long-term knot, which is not an uman's knot. Either one of them, they made a gzeira that you might come to do the real one. Drabanan, that's that second case. Mutter gomer is when it's neither of the two. It's not lo'olam, and it's not an uman's knot. Okay, but even if it's like for 30 days, what's a good example of this? You have curtains. Very good example, no? Everybody knows, those curtains. So they have those decorative curtains. And also the crib bumpers, no? You know what I'm talking about? They have the crib bumpers and those. How long do you keep the crib bumper? And you tie them up. Now, most people don't tie them with a knot. Also the curtains, and I'm seeing them now. The curtains, those curtains, does anybody tie them with a knot? That's not what the fancy people do. What they do is they tie it with like a knot. We'll have to talk about all these things, but the first knot, we got to give names for these things. What's that first knot going to be called? What? I don't want to call it a single knot because when it's going to be on one strand, it's going to be much more aggressive. A single knot, the kids say, right? But was a pretzel, okay. But that's not going to confuse anyone. No, okay. Thank you for coming today. A single knot. A single, you all know what I'm talking about, okay? Don't be anti-Semitic. The first thing you take like that, okay? And then afterward, you make a bow like on a shoe, okay? The shoe has the first one, and then and that's what people do on the drapes. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? That's what you do. Everybody say, das ist a knot. Das ist a knot. Is it an umen's knot? That's a good example of something which in the Paiskim is clearly not an umen's knot. According to that, how long do you put that on for? You put it on for? What do you say? How long do you put it on for? So we saw yesterday that might be called la'olam. You know why? Why is that called la'olam? Because that's ad shebali. You keep it on indefinitely. I think that's the word, correct? You keep it on, what? The drapes. Who washes the drapes? We'll get to the crib bumper, but the drapes, who washes it? I don't know. Do people wash the drapes? I don't think so. When wash the drapes? What? Pesach. So you're saying it's only for a year. Only maybe for a year. Okay, right? Hungarians, right? There's others. Okay, but let's say so. A year is a big shaila. Is a year called the olam. Some we're going to see. Some Rishonim say a year's the olam. Some Rishonim say 6 months is already called the olam, and also indefinitely might be called the olam. So that might be called the olam. But the crib bumper is a better example. The crib bumper, I think you do. People do wash. Let's put it like this: on the first baby, zicher. It means you wash the crib bumper, and I think on the first baby, I think it was every 2 weeks. It's every 2 weeks. Okay, yeah, that's how it goes by us, right? So, taking off the crib bumper, how long did you put it on for? 2 weeks. According to the Rambam, is that mutter? According to the Rambam, according to the Rambam, Rabbi said, according to the Rambam, it's not an umen's knot, and it's certainly not a long-term knot. It's according to Rambam mutter. According to Rashi, is that mutter? It's more than a week. Game over. It's already at least this is the Rabbanon. It might be more than 24 hours. It's already this. I'm just giving you an example of what could be. Sorry? The Rambam's the Rabbanon was either umen or la'olam. This is not long term. It's 2 weeks. It's definitely not going to be the Rabbanon if it's only 2 weeks. Now, what's the number that the Rambam will agree? It's going to be Mr. Hashem. This is right now a table of contents. But so what's my point? Come to gain the Pri Megadim and the Mishabura all over the Siman, and he says, we are chayshish for the chumras of the Rambam, we are chayshish for the chumras of Rashi, and we're chayshish for all these shittas. Okay? That's number one. Number two is, okay, and we have to keep this in mind. It's very important when we're learning the sugya. What did I tell you, Kindalach? It's very important to remember what's the Rabbanan and what's the Raisa. Does everybody know why it's important to remember the Rabbanan and the Raisa? First of all, the Serech Mitzvah, we're going to have kulas in the Rabbanan, we're going to have kulas by Makom Tsar. It's very important. Number two. Number three is it important to learn the sugya be'in and to know it well? Yes or no? Chaim Kanievsky said yes, because if you're not going to learn it well, what's going to happen? So then it's going to become a shaila, your shoe is going to be tied, and you're going to have tsar. The child, these things come up with the children all the time. The knot is tied, and they tied the shoes together, and they tied it to the kids, the tzaddikim, the chassidim with the payas, they get tied together. All these things, fragnished. And if you're going to go and try at that point, trying to look up the Mishnah Berurah, you're going to get a headache. And also the Chaim Kanievsky says you might not get the right answer. Okay, that's a sikkum of yesterday. Comes again Avnei Nezer with his Grace Akasha. That's where we ended this year. Comes again Avnei Nezer with the Grace Akasha. That's the Shaila on the sukkah. It's very difficult to budge in the sukkah without the Avnei Nezer. Avnei Nezer, the Tzagit Shavar asked a question. He says, what? When it comes to all of the melechets of Shabbos, so there we were never dealing with numbers of more than 24 hours and more than 7 days. What's going on over here? In all the other melechets of Shabbos, when your person writes something for under 24 hours, that's of course aser. Maybe it's the Rabbanon, not the Raisa. It's saying the Meskayim, when you put on makeup for under 24 hours, of course this is aser. So why is it over here we find that everybody agrees when things are done for under 24 hours? It's only a child 24 hours or 7 days. But when it's under 24 hours, everyone agrees that it's what? That it's mutter. What happened over here? One kasha. We added kashas yesterday. Sorry? The Rambam will agree. If it's under 24 hours, then it's... No, but I'm saying, but conceptually, there are cases that the Rambam agrees. Yeah, fine, it's a non-woman, but so how could it be? Yeah, he's Shimshon, right? Shimshon's pointing out, maybe in the Rambam it's not as bad, because maybe the definition of a knot is the umnis shabai. Is the umnis shabai. We'll see, it's not so simple. Excuse me? Slow. It could be. Well, yeah, could be. Because there's a shame of a numnus. Could be. Akapanim, does it the kasha of the Avnei Nezer? He wants to know 24 hours, at least is never a man de Omar in Melechas Shabbos. So even the Rambam agrees it's a man de Omar somewhere over here in the Sugya. Makarapo. This is the kasha. And more so, on a derisidic level, we have to ask the question. For example, yesterday we saw what happens if a person, now the Rambam, you're also going to have to ask the question. Watch. What happens according to the, you write something and you go and you write it for a week and you plan on erasing it. You're over on a derisa, take the guy, throw him off a cliff, and if he's not dead, throw boulders on his head. He's a varian and a machal Shabbos. Why? But he planned on only having it there for a week. What shaykh is? It's something that could last. What are you doing? You're out. So why is it that over here, when it comes to Meleches Kosher, we want to know what you're thinking. According to the Rambam also, if I make an uminzna and I plan on taking it out in a week, so then all of a sudden it becomes maybe not mutter, maybe only drabanan. It should be an issa deraisa gomer. If you write something and you plan on undoing it in a week, so that's an issa deraisa. Who says that? The Rambam. That was another kasha we had. The Kitzer, those were the kashas. So we saw yesterday side from the Rebbe, the Sagatshava Rebbe, the Avnei Nezer. This is the side. This was the side in Sagatshava. He said it's muchach from here that chiber is the chiber. Chiber means the connection. Chiber, the chiber is the definition of the malacha of kosher. What is kosher? Kosher means to connect two things. And not only to connect them, connection is defined only when there is lo'ilam. At least on a derisidic level for sure. When something is not connected lo'ilam klapei the Hilchos Mishkan, klapei Meleches Shabbos, it is not called a kosher, it's not called a kesher. A kesher is something that is joined together lo'ilam. So in all the other malachas, by kaisif, the malacha is to give off the information of a kaisif. The tzeveya, the malacha is to enhance the background, to beautify the background, either by painting the background, putting the makeup on the back. So now, in other malachas, you did the malacha, just it has to have a cheshivas. What's the cheshivas? If it's for a certain amount of time, then it has cheshivas. What's the example of a certain amount of time? So a day is already for sure more than enough time. But even less than a day, the malacha is there. So now Chazal said, you're right, you didn't do the malacha with chashivas, but you did the malacha. So therefore it gets knocked down to derbanan. So by kaisiv, when I kaisiv in a case of where I use letters that can't last for even 24 hours, so deraisa you won't be over on, but you'll be over on a derbanan. Why? Because the message is there, so the kaisiv is there, but it wasn't done by even chashivas. Mashain came when it comes to the malach of kosher. If you are not connecting, if you're not being mechaber for la'olam, you didn't do the aleph base, you didn't do kosher. You didn't do a kesher. Kesher means to connect the items, the string to the pail, the two strings together. Kosher means to connect the two items. It's not called connection unless it's, so therefore I do care about what you're thinking. I care because it's not called mechubar. It's not, you're lacking in the aleph base. Here we need the chibur to create the malacha. Is that crystal clear before I went and go fight it? We said this yesterday. Now, I'll give you an example. You're going to see in Yetz Hashem, look at Sif Beis. It comes to getting the Ramah over here in Sif Beis. And we spoke about this Bemis when we learned Karei over here. The Ramah is a whole machlekes over here. Oy, such a machlekes over here. What's the machlekes? It's such a grace of machlekes. Who is it? Rabbi Yoel, the grace of tzaddikim, grace of Rishayim. Siv Gimel, maybe it was. Yeah, in Siv Gimel over here. There's a whole machlekes over here. Is there an isser of toifer lizman? Is there an isser of toifer lizman? Till now we're talking about kosher lizman. Is there an isser of kosher lizman? So if it's under 24 hours, under 7 days, definitely not. That's the whole entire sugya, according to everybody. No. What about toifer? If I sew something together for under 24 hours, let's say the sheet of 24 hours, there's a sheet of 7 days. Is there a heter and then the nafkamin is matir, right? Untying. So we learned about this barichas. We spoke about diapers and we talked about all these zachin in winter's moms thousands of years ago, right? Is there an isser of toifer lizman? That's like Grace Shai. Is there an isser of toifer lizman? So listen to this. So who the name? Mitzvah Hashem. We're going to learn it properly. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll learn it at the time. As Hashem, we'll come to it. But what happened? It went off? Okay. But it can't go off. It can't go. No, it shouldn't go off. The Riva, yeah. Everybody said, just the shit is almost over anyway, so don't worry about it. the Riva, you'll see, there's a mitzvah, two shitas when we're going to learn over here about Teufel Isman. The shita of the Riva is he says, no shaykhis to kosher. The Riva says there's no shaykhis to kosher. Teufel has no shaykhis to kosher. Teufel is like the regular rules of all of Meleches Shabbos. Does this make sense with the Akdama that you just heard? Makes a lot of sense. All Melachis, like Koisiv, like Boine, all Melachis is the Etzim Melacha, the Koisiv, the Boine, whatever. And then there's certain Chshivas. When is it Chashiv? It's Chashiv already if it's something that could last. That's says the Riva. Teufer is no different. Teufer is a Melacha of taking two things and making them into one. Okay, so now you did. When you sew it together in such an oifen that the only way to get these two things apart is by ripping them. So then what did you do? You made them one. Just like Baina. Baina is you made it one. And that which it's going to last or not last, that's just a level of the chashivas of the malacha. So if once it's something that theoretically can last, even though you don't plan on keeping it around, the first shita the Riva holds by Teufer, there's no such rule. If you sew it even for under 24 hours, so then you made it. What's the difference between Teufer and Baina? Okay, the next man, the Omar, who's this? That's the Rabbeinu Yoel. Rabbeinu Yoel says no. Teufer is like kosher, but you can appreciate this. Teufer is like kosher. Now you can appreciate that these were the two malachas. Where kosher was vadai, one direction, that avada, the shame of the malacha is all dependent on the chibur. Is it a chibur la'olam or not? Teufer is something that you could have heard with the tansta beta chasanas. You could have heard Teufer is something in the middle. Mitzad the Riva says Teufer is like every other malacha because the shame of the malacha is making it one. Making it one to the extent, like Rav Moshe writes in the Tshuva, you made it one to the extent that if I want to take it apart, I have to rip it. That's the malacha of Teufer. Rav Moshe says that's why these diapers aren't the problem. Because when you open up these diapers, you don't rip it. So you didn't make it one. So the definition of the malacha, the first mandama says, it's making it one to the extent that you have to rip it when you take it apart. If that's the case, so then let's say I did it for under 24 hours. Who cares? Could it last? It could last. Is it something that when you take it apart, it has to rip? Yes, you did. That's the first mandama. The second mandama, that's Rabbeinu Yoel. Rabbeinu Yoel says, no, it's not totally in them. Rabbeinu Yoel says, it's not totally, the Shem Malacha is making it one, a chipper of one. Chipper of one is only something that's going to have a lasting, it's an extension. It's an extension. When it comes to kosher, it's making a chipper of two parts that are joined together, connected together. Teufer is taking it to the next level. You're being mechaber something to such an extent that it's one, but it's all dependent also on your das. It's all dependent on Zman. But I'm just trying to show you that it's shaykh. You understand the machlekes. Once you have this havana, so then you can have a machlekes when it comes to Teufer. Okay, Adkan is the site of the Avnei Nezer. It's very difficult to live in this sugya without the site of the Avnei Nezer. It's very difficult, which brings us to what we started speaking about yesterday. The problem with this Avnei Nezer is that the Mishnah Berurah is not like this. Why? Kum Tzegei the Avnei Nezer in Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, and the Avnei Nezer says that that first one was in Kuf Pei Gimel. This one also might be Kuf Pei Gimel. Yeah, Kum Tzegei the Avnei Nezer, and he says, I have a mitzvah of arsim. You shouldn't borrow somebody else's tefillin. You know why? Because you're going to borrow somebody else's tefillin. You have a different size head than him, and now you're going to go and make the knot bigger. You're going to make the knot smaller, like we spoke yesterday. What's going to happen? The kesher proves from the Gemara Menachos that the kesher of tefillin is totally in the same rules as Shabbos. The same kesher over there, the Gemara learns out from Hilchos Shabbos. So therefore, if you go and change the knot, how long are you changing the knot for? For 24 hours, under 24 hours, whatever it is. But you're certainly not changing this knot le-olam. You who borrowed the tefillin are not yoytze the tefillin, and thus is a mitzvah lefarse. Adkan is the kasha. Yesterday, we spoke out from the Mishnah Berurah. I brought the Mishnah Berurah, I brought the wrong one. Mishnah Berurah in Siman Chaf Hey, in Zivkat Beis, Zok the Mishnah Berurah, make sure that when you go on a trip, you don't borrow somebody else's tefillin and that you bring your tefillin with you. Why? Zok the Mishnah Berurah, he quotes a Bach, big oynish if you don't bring your own tefillin. You look inside the Bach says, you know why? Because sometimes you're not going to find tefillin and you're going to be over on this man Krishna. No, the fee that. You call up your shver and you say, I'm coming. Do you have a pair of tefillin for me? And he's going to say, yeah, sure, no problem, right? And the way it works with the shver is always he davens way before you or way after you. That's how I get this, right? So it does no problem. I'm going to have a pair of tefillin. No problem. Well, let's say he tells even better. We have an extra pair of tefillin or whatever. So then you don't have the problem, right? But then the Mishnah Berurah says on the Sharatzian, he said, but I have another problem if you're going to borrow tefillin. What's his problem? He says, you're going to be misatzel, you're going to be lazy and not change the size of the na. So, and then you're going to better that you shouldn't even wear the tefillin because you make bracha levatal. So what does it say in the first and Sefer Mishnah Berurah? That if you would not be lazy and you would change the na, so then the Mishnah Berurah has no problem. So it's clear in the Mishnah Berurah, he doesn't hold of this mitzvah of farsim of the Avnei Nezer. But I'm telling you now, so what's your option? You're going to say, so then the pshat is that we won't go with the aside of the Avnei Nezer. The Avnei Nezer based his halacha on his yisaid. He said that the whole yisaid is chibur, and the shame chibur is la'olam. That's the shame of chibur. So he's saying that therefore by tefillin, you're not going to have a chibur la'olam, so that doesn't have a shame of a not la'olam, so you're not wearing tefillin. Sorry? Just as a moment. So Elamai, you're going to go over here in the Mishnah Berurah, and you're going to say that we're not going to go with the mahalach of the Avnei Nezer. You don't need la'olam. It's called the shame. The la'olam is a zaytig etznai in Hilchos kosher. Kosher, the malach of kosher is making an entanglement of ropes and an entanglement of two parts. And the zman is etznai. If you're going to go with that, you're going to get a big headache. You're going to have all these questions that we just asked. It's very, very not mistai. So one sefer, he wants to show that that's the ikar. The ikar mahalach is to argue on the Avnei Nezer. Ayin sham in the Hakdama D'Orach Shabbos. I don't know. If you don't go with the Avnei Nezer, you're going to have tsaris tsaruris. Okay? So now we have to answer up. You have to answer up for the Avnei Nezer. That's it. You have to answer up that the Mishnah Berurah is going to go with the side of the Avnei Nezer if he's not bothered. So what do you want to answer? Buzz? He's not planning to do it loyal. He knows for sure someone within 24 hours is. He doesn't hope. Why not? I'm a nice guy. I want my shveres tefillin. I want his to fit his head. If I care. And what about the people? That nice tzaddik kind of guy. He takes the tefillin and then right afterward he puts it back for the guy. A lot of good people do things like that. But the Mishnah Berurah doesn't differentiate. The Mishnah Berurah is not talking about that. Most people, I think most normal people, if they borrow somebody else's tefillin and they go and they make a knot and whatever, I think most people are going to put it back. Guy comes the next day, like we said, he puts on the tefillin, it's like a belt, So Mishnah Berurah didn't mesh. No, but I understand, but the Mishnah Berurah is saying, the problem is if you're lazy. The Hainu, what the Mishnah Berurah is saying is that if you wouldn't be lazy, it wouldn't be problem. We're going on that side. I can put it, but the Mishnah Berurah is clearly, the Mishnah Berurah is clear that if a person would do it, it would be fine. He's just saying, Mishnah Berurah is saying, don't put yourself into the situation. Why? Because he doesn't trust that you're going to be able to be goiver on the laziness. But 1 second. But mitzad halacha, it's barer, no shaila in the world. That if the Mishnah Berurah, if the person were to do a knot that fit his head, the Mishnah Berurah would hold halachically it's mutter, no question. And the Mishnah Berurah does not differentiate and say, well, it depends if you're the person that's going to. And bichlal, what kind of a das is that? I want the knot to last who cares what you want? If a person knows he's making a knot and there's no question without a shadow of a doubt that it's not going to be there tomorrow, so then that das is not a das b'chal. If you know for sure that you're making a knot and you know for sure that it's going to be taken out within 24 hours, so then that's cool that you're making a knot for only 24 hours. Now I must tell you what? Come again? Yeah. So first of all, you're saying it's teretz, but that certainly won't work with the Avnei Nezer. Avnei Nezer says the kesher on a derisidic level, according to all the shittas, Rashi, Rambam, is called la'olam. We're just trying to figure out what is la'olam, 6 months, a year, whatever, but everyone agrees derisic kesher is la'olam. Now by tefillin, dafmin haben not kesher la'olam, take a kesher. So that's where the shayla starts. Now, I want to tell you, let's hold off. I'm toward the end of this year. What do you want to say? No, I'm saying you answered this. Sorry. That's all these are possible terutzim. Let me tell you, I looked around. I had a few of these terutzim myself. So I looked around to see. I'm borrowed that great people, great chachamim from Lublin, for example, probably answered these shilas. So the Maisa, you don't have to go so far. The truth is, already in the Sagat Shavar Mishpacha, there was already a yachos. I found this in the Kazakh lover. Who was the Kazakh lover? Nasi? Eretz Tzvi. I know that. The Eretz Tzvi, I didn't write down where the tshuva was. The Eretz Tzvi, well, it shouldn't be hard to find. It's a tshuva in the Eretz Tzvi about this. So the Eretz Tzvi over there, he brings down. Does he? Right, so first, okay, let's go in order, I suppose. One teretz, Rabbi Fuchs, is he wants to say himself, this is Eretz himself. He says, well, the Maisa, maybe you're doing it for more than a day. What does he mean? Maybe you're doing, okay, it's a little bit of an ukimta, he says himself. It's not always muchach, you're doing it for more than a day. It depends, usually if you're davening after that guy, so then, what? Pashas, Mr. Brewer will see soon. Pashas means 24 hours. Now, Pashas means 24 hours. You can see over here, Pashas 24 hours. Mr. Brewer certainly goes to that. Pashas. So, okay, but that's one Pashas. But that doesn't help us so much in the Avnei Nezer, because the Avnei Nezer told us what's a knot. A knot, in the definition of the Torah's sense of what is not, means la'olam. La'olam is the definition of a knot in the sense of the Torah. Okay, so that teretz is not gavaldik. The Shem Shmuel, I think there Tzvi brings the taka. I can't read what I wrote over here, but the Shem Shmuel, he taka says, who said that teretz? Rabbi Lieberman. I think Rabbi Cooper also. He's probably listening to us on the phone over there. There he is. Yeah, that's his number. Yeah. So the Rabbi Cooper yesterday, he told me I have a teretz, and taka. This mistama was at the Sagat Shavar bar mitzvah drushes and things like that, right? So the Sagat Shavar, Shem Shmuel Sagat Shavar. So he said, you know what the teretz is? Who took out the knot? Who took out the knot? You know that weird guy, you lend your tefillin to him, you see him, he's taking out strings and everything, taking out parashas. What are you doing? Most people, when you lend them your tefillin, they take out the ganze knot. What do? They loosen it over here and over there and darten and a little bit of a darten and does, and then the gepsach, and then, so they loosen the knot, but they don't undo the knot. They loosen the knot. So he said to his father, he said, who says that that's called, considered that you took out the knot? Maybe the knot, maybe interesting this far, no? Isn't that interesting, so? First, probably not. Probably not, but we're trying to. Was? That's a very good question. That's very good. He's asking on Shabbos if you do that with Yoiver and Mater, and then when you put her back together with Yoiver on Kosher. Mistama, we have a gilui that the Avnei Nezer held. Yeah, I don't think he's arguing on the Balabatishkeit, right? Mistama, the Avnei Nezer agrees that that's how people take out the kasher, right? But I don't know. I wonder something else. I wonder if everyone agrees that. Let's say it like this, maybe. Klapi the chibur, this chibur is going to still be here la'olam. I wonder if that's as far going on over here. I wonder if you could split these things, like splitting a hair. I wonder if you could split that the knot that you're making, this person goes and he loosens it up and he makes it. So his knot, the connection of these parts is going to be la'olam. And now, are you over on kosher matter? I'd like to learn the sugi a little bit more to try and answer that question. Right? It's all the same idea. It'll be the same idea. So that's another teretz. You guys are forgetting the best teretz. What other teretz could you answer for the Mishnah Berurah? No other teretz? So I don't know if you got yet to the first Biur Halacha. You're going to get there. But there's another potential teretz. I'm going to let you soak this teretz up. I'll tell you first the idea, and then I'm not going to talk about it again. Then you're going to see in the Biur Halacha, and then we're going to talk about it. There's a whole new teretz over here. Who says the ganze kasha ulai tzefaitzich nishton? The whole kasha maybe doesn't start. Who could tell me why? Maybe the whole entire kasha. What? That what? Okay. No, that pashas is here. I don't think that. I think this Rai is in Hilchos Tefillin. I think so. No, but what? Who could tell me as far in Hilchos Kosher that the whole kasha maybe doesn't even start? What's the kasha based upon? This Jew comes and he takes the knot, and let's say that's called he's making a new knot, taking a knot, and he's doing that knot for what? He's doing that knot for 24 hours, for 20 minutes. He's doing that knot, right? So for the Avnei Nezer, it's not a la'olam tikkun, right? Because why is it not a la'olam tikkun? Because it's all based on your das. Rabbi said, let me ask you a question. I want you to start thinking about this. Rabbi said, what happens? I have my tzitzis string comes out on Shabbos. The bottom of my string, this is, all the time it happens. Right? Okay, we'll talk about it if it always happens or whatever. But let's say, it happens and you don't like it hanging down. Some people, they see tzitzis strings, they get some nervous. Some people like OCD about these things even, so they get very nervous. So he decides to tie, so as he's on the way up, pulling the string to make his knot. So the person next to him says, "Oh, kosher, what's wrong with you?" Right? So he says to himself, "Hareini mekavin L'ftoyech the knot on Motzei Shabbos. I have kavanah to open up the knot on Motzei Shabbos. Now, it could be it's an uman's knot anyway, so it'll still be over the Rabbanon. Okay, we'll talk about all these things, right? But is he chayiv chatas? Is he chayiv chatas? So you're going to say, no. The chayra, he decided he's opening it within 24 hours, right? What if I told you a new svara? Who says it's tali in him? Who says tali in him? Who says tali in him? Maybe, let's say you have a knot that the whole entire world, that when they make this knot, they make it la'olam. So maybe the shame of that knot is la'olam. Who says that you have the ability to place your das to make it, meaning I can hear that you have the das to make it that it will yes be la'olam. If you decide it's going to be la'olam, so maybe that itself is enough of a reason to say it's called a la'olam tikana. We'll have to talk about these first. But who says the other way? Who says if I make a knot that the ganze world does as a la'olam tikana, so maybe that becomes the shame of this knot. Now that is a svara that you're going to see the Bir Halacha gives a tremendous amount of respect to it. I don't want to go into the svara now because I want you to see it yourselves and go into it. If you go with that svara, forget names and faces for a moment, Rabbi Svara. If you go with that svara, then maybe the whole svara of Rabbeinu, a Gadol, the Avnei Nezer, maybe does not start. Maybe the whole kasha doesn't start. Because when I'm making a tefillah knot, you're right, you plan on taking it out in an hour and whatever, you plan on doing it or whatever, but who cares? A tefillah knot is the quintessential dogma of a knot that when it's made, is made to last. So maybe the chefts of making such a knot is a la'olam type of knot. That's a svara. It's the first time you're going to hear it in the sugya, and Mitzvah Shem, it shall come back to you, Mitzvah Shem. But it's definitely a potential that makes it that the ganze kasha fights nishtat. The ganze kasha. Is there any questions on that, Rabbi? This is das. Maybe the das, I'm not saying it's not telling das. It's clearly telling das. But who says the das is your das that's kaveh? Maybe when we want to look at das, the truth is the Bir Halacha says this, Rabbi said. Maybe when we're looking at das, we look at the Welt, how they're misyaches when they're doing this. And that's what's kaveh das. That's kaveh das. Some come again? Excuse me, what? I want you to see the sugya. It's bichlal not pasha what you said. There's b'shbur zikr not like that. I say, but it's not bichlal pasha in svara like that at all. Everybody's like, let me be messiah with one thing, just a derech agav. It's an interesting idea. It's nothing to do with our sugya, but when you look over there, mamish derech agav. Once I mentioned tefillin, tomorrow we'll continue with all these things. Just the derech agav thing is that the price can bring down. And Mishabura is mashma like this also. The price can bring down that there's another reason why you should use your own tefillin. It's derech agav, but once I started this sugya, I might as well just finish it. You should use your own tefillin. You know why? Api Kabbalah, there's an Indian to be doing a mitzvah with your own item, with your own chavtza. There's an Indian to buy your own item of a mitzvah. That's Api Kabbalah. And the Zohar says, it's pachadik word. The Zohar says, if you do a mitzvah and you didn't pay for it, the Zohar says it's worthless. Yes, it's worthless. I don't understand it, but that's what it says in the Zohar. You have to pay for a mitzvah. Right? Now, sometimes you have that person and he's selling a ravis, and how much? And he says, Shei shekel, Shei arba, arba agurot. He said, he screamed back and forth. Finally, you got him down to chamesh. You feel good about yourself. Chamesh. You don't handle for a mitzvah. That's not a bowl of hummus. It's not matbucha. It's not chickpeas. It's not arbis. Don't handle for mitzvahs past nisht. Right? And sometimes you have that guy who's all excited, that he bought a lulav and esrei, got dasim, right? The guy threw in the arabis. If he throws in the kaishikol git, if he throws in the zekel, it's a git, But for a mitzvah, I'm selling for the mitzvah, I'm giving the geld for the mitzvah, a mitzvah that was done for free, it's worthless. That's what the Zohar says. So that's another reason why the Mikubalim say that you should get your own desires. It says it doesn't say it on tefillah, but that's another. It's a Zohar talk in last week's parsha also. I have a mashmayis like that. In parsha Kisav, you should pay for a mitzvah. Ad kidei kach. There's a Ber Yankiv. The Sharchuva brings this raid in Hilchos Chanukah that let's say you have Dalid Minim. So you say, what does every bacher have the kasha? Why do I have to buy daled minim, right? No matter what, the Rav has shenem daled minim, the guy next to me has nice daled minim. So why do I have to buy daled minim? Or at least I'll buy like, these like, what? Like a chinuch set or whatever, my father said that he was never matzlich to be mechanech me and things like that. So maybe now on my own, or whatever. So he buys himself a chinuch set. And anyways, I'll shackle the lilith from the Rebbe, from the tzaddik. So who was it? The Ber Yankiv, the Shar Tshuva, and Hilchos Chanukah. They say, no. If you have a set of esrog, lulav, and everything, you make the bracha on your esrog and lulav, even if Yanim is more mehidar, even if Yanim is more mohudar. Because there's an Indian to own your own set, not just on day one with the kachtim. I know what's going on this year. Oh, this year I don't have to buy nice lulavim because it falls on Shabbos, right? You have to pay your what? Give him a shekel for it, right? What? Give him a shekel, give a shekel, give something for the mitzvah, right? Give something. Ad Kidikach, the Ber Yankiv is talking about a town that doesn't have a lulav and esrog. And in this town there is one, but it won't be mine. So should I send mine to the other town? And then I'll use the one in this town. Now it's hard for a yid but he dons the shaila. He says there's a mila in having your own. We would have thought pashit, the mitzvah of chetzed anyways beats this. But it's a nidin. It's a nidin. Why is it a nidin? Because there is a tremendous mila and apikabal to be using your own item. Therefore, don't borrow somebody else's tefillin. Isn't that interesting? No? That's interesting. Did you guys know that? You knew that? No? If I find it, you knew that? Was? Oh, so Maisa, his father bought his tefillin. So what do you have to do? So I told my son that what you should do is that you're going to get bar mitzvah money. That's how it goes in the bar mitzvah. You get money. I told him you should give me money. You should give me money. He said to me, "What advice? I don't have that kind of money. The tefillin I buy are like Rashi's nishkahat these kind of tefillin that I get. So I told okay. So we'll zakah for labba milva. You'll give me now a few $1,000, and then after the rest of it, you'll pay me back over the course of your lifetime, $1,000 a year. That's I'll buy 120. It should it'll come out. It'll work out. So okay, we'll continue tomorrow. All right. Wait, whoever needs a chavusa, you need a chavusa probably, right? Whoever needs a chavusa or something's working out, that should come to me now. Who?